8:47 a.m. Derek is already at your desk before you've set down your coffee, phone tilted toward you, a candlestick chart glowing red and green like a slot machine. "Look at this," he says. "This coin just did 40% in 6 hours. You nod, sip your coffee, and open your laptop to the same tab you open every payday, the one that automatically moved $400 into an index fund at 5 a.m. while you were asleep. You never once checked the price. Derek checks it maybe 40 times before lunch. Thumb moving in the same small circular motion every time. Refresh, glance, sigh or grin depending on the color. Rewind. You started at Halden Analytics the same week as Derek, both 26, both handed the same benefits packet by the same tired HR rep in the same beige conference room with the flickering overhead light nobody ever reports. The 401k page is page 11. Derek skips straight to page 14, the section on outside brokerage linking because he's already got an app open under the table, some exchange with a cartoon dog logo. You read page 11 start to finish. You check the box for the company match. It takes you 90 seconds. Derek spends 40 minutes that afternoon explaining to anyone who'll listen why banks are obsolete. Year 1. Derek is up $11,000 on a coin he can't fully explain to you, something about a validator network. He shows you the app at lunch, scrolling through green numbers, glowing with the specific pride of someone who has just discovered fire. You say that's great genuinely because it is great for now. You don't mention your own account. There's nothing dramatic to mention. It went up a normal, boring amount, the kind of number that generates zero conversation at a lunch table. Priya from accounting asks Derek what app he's using. He spends the rest of lunch walking her through wallet security, seed phrases, exchange fees, a whole vocabulary you never bother to learn because you've never needed it. Year 2. The coin crashes 60% in a weekend. Derek comes in Monday quiet, jaw tight. And by Wednesday, he's telling everyone it's just a correction, a shakeout, weak hands selling before the real rally. You listen. You don't offer your own numbers as a contrast. Your account dipped too, same as everyone's, and then it kept doing what it always does, which is nothing anyone would screenshot. You check the app once that week, out of curiosity more than worry, and go back to your actual work. Year 3, Derek discovers a new coin, then a third, then starts talking about a wallet full of them like a portfolio manager describing a diversified strategy. Except none of it is diversified, it's all the same bet dressed up 4 different ways, all riding on the same headline hopes. You start a private refrain in your head that year, one you don't say out loud. The account was never about the price today. It was about the price nobody's watching. Year 4, the market turns hard. The kind of downturn that makes the evening news use the word contagion. Anchors repeating it in that same grave tone until it stops meaning anything specific. Derek's group chat, the one for serious investors he's part of, goes dark for 3 days. You increase your contribution percentage that same week, a decision that takes less time than Derek's morning chart check routine. Year 5. A coworker named Priya asks you at the coffee machine if you're into crypto too. You say not really, and she seems almost disappointed, like you're missing some obvious opportunity everyone else is already inside of. Derek overhears and jumps in with a pitch about the next bull run. You let him talk. You don't correct him. Your account crosses $90,000 that spring. Sitting quietly in an app you check maybe once a month, mostly out of habit. Year 6, Derek has a very good stretch. Up $18,000 on a token that trended for exactly 1 news cycle. He buys a nicer car, tells everyone it was basically free because the gains paid for it. Nobody in the office knows what his actual account balance is beyond what he chooses to announce, which is always the highs, never the lows, never the token before that one, or the one before that. Year 7, the token collapses to nearly 0. Derek doesn't mention the car anymore. He starts talking instead about a new project, something about artificial intelligence combined with a blockchain. And he says this one is different. This one has real utility. This one he actually researched for a whole weekend. You've heard some version of this one is different every year since you met him. Your account crosses $200,000 that November. You don't say anything at your desk. You just close the tab and get back to work. Year 8, the company does its first transparent benefits review. An anonymized report showing average retirement account balances by tenure. No names attached, just tenure brackets and numbers. Derek reads it aloud at his desk, complaining that the numbers seem impossibly high for people who've been here as long as him. You read it silently at yours. Your number is in there too. You already know roughly where you land. Priya, older and quieter about crypto now herself, glances at you across the row of desks with something like a knowing look. Though neither of you says anything about it, year 9, Derek asks you directly, almost defensively, whether you've ever actually made real money in the market since you never talk about it. You say you've done fine. He laughs, not meanly, just the laugh of someone who assumes boring and broke are the same thing, always have been in his mind. You let him have the laugh. Your account crosses $340,000 2 months later. Year 10. A recession scare rattles every portfolio in the building. Derek's crypto holdings fall harder and faster than anything else in the office, down more in a week than most people make in a year. He mentions borrowing against his 401k to buy the dip. You don't tell him what to do. That's not your role in his life, and you've never once tried to make it one. You just quietly let your own account ride it out the way it always has. And 5 months later, it's not just recovered, it's higher than before. Indifferent to how loud the headlines were while you were living through them. Year 11. The company runs its first fully transparent, opt-in retirement snapshot at the annual review. Actual numbers this time, employee by employee, visible only to HR and the individual employee, but summarized in aggregate for department morale purposes. Your manager pulls you aside afterward not to flag a problem, just to say she's genuinely impressed and asks, almost carefully, how you did it. You tell her the truth. 90 seconds on page 11, 11 years ago, and never touching it since. She writes something down, though you doubt it's a number. More likely just the word consistency, which is the closest thing to a secret you actually have. 2 days later, Derek corners you at the printer. Someone in HR mentioned the department numbers out loud in a meeting he happened to be in, an aggregate, no names, but he does quick math in his head about who's been here how long, and he lands on you fast. He always was quick with numbers when they were the numbers he wanted to see. He asks if it's true, glancing around quickly first to make sure no one else is listening, lowering his voice for what might be the first time you've ever heard him do it. You say it's true. He asks how, genuinely baffled, since he's watched you eat the same sandwich at your desk for 11 years and drive the same used sedan the whole time. You tell him plainly. 90 seconds filling out a form, a box checked for the match, a contribution percentage you raised twice and never lowered. No coins, no wallets, no group chats, no charts. Just the same boring habit repeated on the same schedule for 11 years straight. He's quiet for a second. And then he says the thing people always say. He says he never even knew you were doing that. You tell him that was sort of the point. He asks if it ever felt slow, watching numbers that barely move day to day. You tell him the truth, that you stopped watching, and that was the actual secret, not the account itself, just not watching it. He doesn't have a response for that one. He goes back to his desk. You go back to yours. That night you think about the first week. Page 11 and page 14, 2 forms filled out in the same beige room 11 years apart in outcome but only 90 seconds apart in effort. You think about every chart Derek ever showed you at your desk, green, then red, then green again. A decade of noise circling a number that, as far as you can tell, never actually grew. You think about Priya, too, how she learned the vocabulary Derek taught her and then quietly stopped using it a few years back, without ever announcing why or explaining it to anyone. You don't say any of that to him directly. You're not trying to win anything, and you never were. The account was never a contest. It was just a habit nobody was watching, which turned out to be exactly the point. A few weeks later, Derek stops by your desk again, phone in his pocket for once. He asks, quieter than usual, if you'd walk him through page 11. You say sure. It takes less time than his morning chart check used to. He checks the matchbox. He doesn't open the app that afternoon. You don't know if it sticks. You hope it does, mostly for his sake. Not because it changes anything about your own account either way. Either way, your own contribution runs the same as it always has. Automatically at 5 a.m., whether anyone's watching or not. Somewhere right now, someone is showing a coworker a candlestick chart at their desk, glowing red and green. certain this is the one that finally changes everything for good. Meanwhile, at the next desk over, someone else is quietly not checking anything at all, a number compounding in the background of an ordinary Tuesday. Too boring to screenshot, too slow to brag about, and too real to ever actually vanish in a single bad weekend. The account was never about the price today. It was about the price nobody's watching, still standing long after every chart from every desk has already come and gone, green or red, screenshot or not.